overview there with giving us and setting the pace by giving us statistics. 2,329 cases were recorded for the year 2019 as far as child trafficking is concerned. That is put expressly in the report, that is the Economic Survey of 2020 that was released in April. This morning we're talking about child trafficking. And the question is, how safe is your child, or how safe is a child who is under your care at the moment? And if the unfortunate happens, where do you seek help? Joining me this morning is an advocate of the High Court and an expert as far as children's safety is concerned and their rights. That is Freshia Cargo, a project manager at Eastern African Child Rights Network. Thank you for making time, Freshia.
Thank you for having me, Regina.
Great. Now you've heard the statistics there.
Yes.
And from that particular report, you've seen they've been on an upward trajectory.
Yes.
We'd want to introduce our main guests, you know, and these are the children, so that we want to find out, are they aware that they are, they need to be a little bit more careful and more cautious when they're out playing. I'd want to introduce my guests that are drawn from different parts of the country. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How about we wave? Can we wave? I'm waving at you. Good morning. Glad to have you on board. Glad to have you on board. It's bound to be a very good discussion. As you've seen there, we have children from different parts of the country coming on board to have this conversation this morning. Child trafficking. It's every parent's and guardian's dream that, and hope actually, that their children are secure. But now we have perpetrators out there, people with impunity who want to take advantage of our vulnerable in society. This morning, if the unfortunate happens, if your child is missing, where do you seek redress? That's a conversation. Remember, we are live on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. That is on www.kbc.co.ke. The hashtag is KBC, hashtag KBC Kids Talk. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News, and mine is at Ray Manyara. Get tweeting. Give us the feedback that you need. Give us the feedback that we require. Ask the questions that you want answered. And we have an expert in studio to just help us navigate that issue. Good morning once again. We've had the figures. We're talking about the figures. And if you compare what we had in 2018, it seems that this has been on an upward trajectory. We are having now more cases of child trafficking being recorded. From where you sit, why do you think, or rather what is fueling this?
Okay, this is an issue that we can look at from 2 points. Because the fact that we are having higher number of cases recorded can mean two things. It's either the cases have increased, or we are having better, or in terms of awareness. There's been a lot of awareness in terms of creation around trafficking and child trafficking. So the more you create awareness, the more there's a higher likelihood that you will get higher cases. So we've seen a lot in terms of civil societies coming out to highlight the issue of child trafficking. We have seen a lot of civil societies or even members coming to highlight cases of children who are missing. We have also seen now the police and the government actually dedicating an entire unit to the vice of trafficking, to counter now the vice of trafficking. So I think for me it is both two-pronged. It be either that the cases have risen or that there's been a higher number recorded because of the increased awareness.
Increased awareness.
Yes.
From the statistics and the data that we have been shared is that we've seen that among the cases that were recorded, yes. For example, under unlawful confinement, we found that there were more girls, more there were boys.
Yes.
Why that trend?
When we look at girls generally in society tend to be a bit more vulnerable. And we are looking at the cases of trafficking that we are recording. It's mostly child labor and sexual exploitation. And those two cases tend to attract the victims who are more or less very vulnerable. It's the girl child. Because they're used for sexual exploitation and also domestic labor, either especially within the urban areas, we are finding that it is most likely girls who will be brought into the homes of, let me say, within the urban center for them to be domestic workers, taking care of children or taking care of the home. And also sexual exploitation. So that mostly we are finding it is girls who are being used for the vice of sexual trafficking. So in that sense, we may find that the numbers or the victims who are mostly vulnerable, it's the girl child.
Oh, so
Yes.
the girl child is also very vulnerable for this point.
Yes.
Now, how then do we, or rather, you've said child labor and sex tourism,
Yes.
Or slavery,
Sexual exploitation
yes,
also.
yeah,
Yes.
are the most prevalent, crimes or rather vices that are pushing for child trafficking.
Yes.
Is it from where you sit? Can you help us map out hotspots for these particular vices?
We find ourselves, okay, in terms of when we say child trafficking, one of the areas we find, especially in Kenya, the coastal area, the vices will differ. When we come to the coastal end of Kenya, we will find that we have sex tourism. For mostly we'll find, yes, because of the tourism nature of the center. In Nairobi, we will find we have a lot in terms of child labor and also domestic labor of children. And also at the border points, we also have the child labor also itself, sexual exploitation. And also we have children who are working in flower farms, especially now in the commercial or rather the agricultural sector, either within the Mount Kenya region, the larger Mount Kenya region, and also the Naivasha-Nakuru area, the flower farms. So the vices will differ in terms of child trafficking. But the areas, I guess it depends on which area we are really talking about. The urban centers, we find more of the girls or the being brought to work within the domestic areas. In the coast, you will find them being used for sexual exploitation, but mostly within the vice of sex tourism. So they differ across the region, but we are also finding within Nairobi, we're having what we are calling the cross-border trafficking. We find a lot, especially in the last year, we had a lot of cases of the Karamojong girls being brought from northern Uganda and being brought into Kenya. For most of them, we found them within the areas of sexual exploitation. Then we have the children again within Nairobi who are Tanzanians, but children living with disabilities, being brought from Tanzania to come and beg within the streets of Nairobi. So they differ across the region and across the country. But we are having a lot in terms of both in-country trafficking and also the cross-border trafficking.
Now, since you're talking about cross-border trafficking here,
Yes.
the report here indicates that Ethiopians, or other children from Ethiopian descent, are finding their way in numbers, in significant numbers in Kenya.
Into Kenya.
Now, since we've already established that border trafficking is happening,
Yes.
how do we then harmonize that? Is it because we have different policies in different countries, or what is happening?
Interestingly, every country, we are finding that within the Eastern African region, especially where we have our program, we find that we implement within Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, but as a network, as the Eastern African Child Rights Network, we are within the Eastern African region itself. So a lot of the countries, or almost every single country, has an anti-trafficking law in place, with, I think, Rwanda being the one that adopted the law last year. But what we find is that all these laws, every country works on its own. We don't have a regional law within the Eastern Africa that harmonizes this entire anti-trafficking. But what we have the child policy of 2016 within the Eastern African, the EAC region, the Eastern African community. But Ethiopia is not a member of the EAC.
Yes.
So what happens with Ethiopia, a lot of them are usually trafficked through Kenya, but the destination is rarely Kenya. Most of them are going downwards, down to South Africa. So Kenya is more or less a transit route. So a transit route. And when you look at the US Department State Report of Kenya, we find that Kenya is both a transit, we are also a recruitment area, and we are also now, we find that it's a transit, as people, as they're living in Kenya, or as they're living, they come through Kenya. So Ethiopia, we find a lot of cases, and we've seen a lot of cases in news, even in the past, of Ethiopians, very many Ethiopians being found or rescued in Kenya. But for most of them, rarely we are finding that the destination is not Kenya, but they are on transit either to the south, down to South Africa. But within the Eastern African region, I think that is something the EAC has been exploring, the entire idea of coming with a harmonized law within the Eastern African region. We have a bill that is in place, but it's still a bill at the moment. But it is something we are also, under the civil societies, we are trying very hard to have the EAC bring back on board and debate it and have it come up as a law, or adopted as a law within the Eastern Africa to harmonize this. I guess one of the challenges, within prosecuting the vice of trafficking is that it needs, especially when it's cross-border, you must have all governments cooperate. The cooperation must be there. And this is something civil societies have started to put in place, a mechanism that allows for cross-border cooperation, so that if we have Ugandans in Kenya, it doesn't make sense then to have a Ugandan come all the way to Kenya to try and rescue. So how do we collaborate as both the governments, as civil societies, as government agencies across the both regions, so that we are able to sort of have a harmonized mechanism that we can use to rescue these children, or else even prevent actually from the border itself? How do we cooperate to prevent the vice of trafficking?
Now, thank you very much, Fresha. You've given us the statistics, how we're looking, locally and cross-border. We want to bring on board the children this morning, and just to want to establish if they are aware that they need to be cautious. And our question this morning would be, we want to know, does your child know your full name? Does he or she know where you work? Do they know your mobile number offhand? Are they aware of a helpline that they can call if they find themselves missing at whatever point? Remember, we are live and we are asking you to tweet on at KBC Channel 1 News, as well as KBC Channel 1 TV, and at Ray Manyara. We are live on Facebook as well as YouTube, on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Child trafficking. The report there shows 2,329 cases were reported for the year 2019. It has shown a total increase of those cases from 2018. Now, Veronica Ekesa. Good morning. Nyongesa, sorry. Veronica Nyongesa, kindly unmute your mic. Vanessa Nyongesa, I can see you kindly. Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine.
Great to see you. How old are you and where are you from, Veronica?
I'm 10 years old and I'm from Nakuru County.
Great. Nakuru County is always very fast to respond. Now, I'd want to know, do you know the full name of your parents? Do you know the full name of your parents?
Yes.
Good. Could you tell us the full name of your parents and where they work? If someone was to ask you where they work or where they are.
My dad is Maratani Nyongesa.
Your mom?
Rose Wafula Nason.
Good. Quite impressive. Now, would want to, do you go to the market? Do you go out to play? Do you go to the market?
No.
Good. Are you sent to the shops?
Yes.
Good. If you were ever to get lost or not to find your way home, do you know of a helpline that you can call?
Yes, I know.
Kindly give us the helpline number that you would call in the event that you're lost.
116.
116. Now, and if you found yourself lost, you know this number offhand, 116. How would you try to get yourself home or get to someone where they can help you? How would you go about it, Veronica?
The police.
Thank you very much. That is the police. That is Veronica Nyongesa, who is 10 years old. She says that she knows her name, the full names of her parents, and she also knows that 116 is the number to call in the event that she does not find her way. 10-year-old Veronica Nyongesa coming live to us from Nakuru County. Now we go over Mark Cairo. Mark Cairo.
Yes.
Good morning. How are you?
Yes.
Where
Fine,
are
thank
you? Where are you right now?
I'm on County.
Pardon?
Mombasa County.
Mombasa County, County 001. Kindly tell us, share your age. How old are you?
18 years.
You're 18. You're an adult. So here we can have a conversation.
Yes.
The issue of child trafficking. Mombasa County has been identified as one of the hotspots in as far as child trafficking is concerned. Have you come across such an issue? Are you aware of such an issue where a child has gone missing?
I've never heard of such an issue from my friends.
And in the event that you found yourself in an unfamiliar territory, how would you seek help, or what avenues would you use to seek help?
First, I called the helpline number.
Which line number? Which line number?
116.
Good. Then, supposing it doesn't go through.
I called my parents.
And in the event that you do not get...
I will call my relative.
Okay. Now, supposing, Mark Thyro, you're not in a position to make that phone call and you need help, how would you go about it? Who would you can't call anyone, but what would you do?
You don't know about that.
Mark Thyro there doesn't know that in the event that maybe he doesn't get through to his parents or his relatives, or even the helpline doesn't work, he is there at that point where he doesn't know how to seek help, especially if he found himself in an unfamiliar territory. This morning we're talking about child trafficking. He's confirmed that he's not aware of that issue. Next, Ayoti.
Yes.
Unmute your mic, kindly. Good morning. How are you, Ayoti? How are you?
I'm fine.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Nairobi.
Nairobi County.
Yeah.
Are you aware of child trafficking? Have you come across a missing child?
Not yet, but I've been introduced to this group just a day yesterday. So I've not had any cases yet.
Okay, you've not had. Tell us, how old are you, Ayoti?
I'm 16 years old.
You're 16 years old. So in the event,
Yes.
Ayoti, that you found yourself in an unfamiliar territory where it's not school, it's not home, it's not anywhere that you're familiar with, what would be your first point of action?
Okay, if I find myself in that situation, I'll go to the nearest police station, ask for directions there, and then ask for.
But pardon, I think you've hang on here. Yeah, Ayoti, pardon. You were telling us that you would head to a police station first, then ask for directions. Were you continuing with your response, Ayoti?
Yeah. Yes, as I was saying, I'll not only ask for directions, but I'll ask for help, that they may help me go back to where I was.
Good. Do you know of any helpline that you can call, or ask someone to call so that you can get assistance?
Yes.
What's the helpline?
The helpline is 116. Yes.
Great. Thank you very much, Ayoti. 16-year-old Ayoti from Nairobi County. He says that he has not come across any issue of his missing children, but he knows that in the event that he found himself in a crooks, he would go to the police station and dial the helpline. Now we're crossing over to Mombasa County with Ruth. Good morning, Ruth. Oguna, right?
Morning, yes.
How are you? Great to see you.
Great, thank you.
So tell us, remind me, how old are you, Ruth?
I'm 14.
Good. 14 from County 001.
Yes.
Do you happen to know a child, maybe a relative, maybe a classmate of sorts who, by one way or another, got lost?
No, I've never had a classmate or a friend or anyone, but my mother has ever come across such a thing.
Oh, your mom has dealt with a missing person. Wow,
No, her friend.
Kindly tell us what was happening. Give us that narrative. What happened?
I'm not really sure though, but she has. That's the closest I've ever gone to child trafficking.
Pardon?
I'm not sure really if it was her, but it was her friend though.
Oh, it was her friend.
Yes.
Who went missing?
No, her child's friend went missing.
Wow, did your mom's friend get back her child?
I don't know.
Wow. Okay, we'll ask your mom, then next time you will tell us what happened with that issue. And Ruth, if at one point you found yourself in an unfamiliar territory, how would you, where would you seek help from?
I will seek help from the hotline, which is 116. But before that, I will call my family first, because I think it's more reliable.
Family is more reliable.
Yes.
And you call the helpline. And if the helpline and you could not get through your family, maybe you're lost and you do not have any means of communication, then what would you do? What would be your next point of action?
From that, my first thing to do would be, I'll be aware of my surroundings. See first if I'm familiar with that place, and seek for someone who is likely to help you.
Good. Now, Ruth,
Yes?
a stranger, what constitutes a stranger for you? Who is a stranger to you, Ruth?
Someone who I don't know.
And do you have those conversations with people you don't know?
Yes, sometimes.
Sometimes. At what points do you have this conversation with people you do not know? In which situations?
Indeed, or sometimes when you want to socialize it.
When you're socializing. Thank you very much, Ruth. There, who's 14 years old from County 01 Mombasa, there says that she is aware of the hotline number. Now we cross over to Machakos County with Moses. Moses, good morning.
Good morning.
Great. How old are you, Moses?
I'm 15 years old.
15 years old. If you found yourself in an unfamiliar territory, how would you, what would you do to get to your home or where you were comfortable before?
First, I would call my parents. And if they don't answer, I will call the helpline number, which is 116.
Okay. And in the event you're not in a position to make these calls, then what would you do?
I will first check my surrounding. If it is, if I don't know it, I would just run to the nearest place where I can get help.
Where you can get help.
Yeah.
Who is a stranger to you, Moses? Who is a stranger?
A stranger is a person whom never seen, you don't know.
And have you had conversations in the past with strangers, and where did you have these conversations?
The day that my dad sent me to the supermarket, as I was walking to the supermarket, a guy stopped me and started talking to me.
Someone stopped you and started talking to you?
Yeah.
Was this person male or female?
Male.
Male. What did they want?
They said that my dad said that they should come and pick me up and take me back home. So I was even confused.
Wow. So what happened?
I just called my parents and to confirm whether if it was true. Since there were people surrounding us at the road, he couldn't take any action. So my dad said it wasn't true. So, and after realizing that, he just ran away.
Wow. Okay. How far back was that incident, Moses?
That was in 2018.
That was 2 years back. Wow, and did you ever,
Yeah.
did your parents ever find out who that person was?
They are still following up on that issue.
Wow, we're glad that you are okay and even took time to share that particular ordeal. Thank you very much. Thank you for being aware. Now we cross over back to County 001 with Ariana. Good morning, Ariana.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'm fine.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, in the event, Ariana, that you found yourself lost somewhere, what would you do? What would be your first line of action, Ariana?
I will ask my parents to give me a code if they go out. So when a stranger comes, I will tell the person what's the code, and if they answer it correctly, I will know that they send them to come and pick me, or they have invited them.
Good. Now, let me ask you. Do you know your parents' numbers or rather lines, contact lines offhand?
Yes.
Good. Then the issue of code, you've mentioned code. Kindly elaborate on that, Ariana. What do you mean by code?
It's like my mother gives me a code that can be cross or something.
Oh.
Then my mother will tell a person who, like I am in school, then my mother tells a person the code. So when the person comes and says, Ariana, your mother told me to come and pick you, then I say, what is the code? When they answer it correctly, then I will go with that person. But if they don't, I will just tell my parents or teachers that who are nearby, or call 116.
Oh.
Call the police, children officer, and teachers if they will respond.
Good. Ariana, kindly remind us how old you are.
I am 8.
Ariana is 8 years old and has already a code that the mom uses, especially when she has to be picked from school, saying that if a stranger approaches her, they have to give us that particular code that has been used. Do you know of, Ariana, before I let you go, do you know of a missing child maybe from your school or your neighborhood or someone you grew up with?
I don't.
You don't. Great, great, great. That is good. Keep up that communication with your mom, Ariana. That is very good. Next. Pardon? Musumba. Philip Musumba. Philip Musumba, good morning.
Morning.
How are you? Tell us where you are, participating in this conversation from.
Morning.
Where are you from, Philip?
Morning.
Philip? I think something
Morning.
has happened there to Musumba. Fine, we can see the video is back on. Tell us where you are coming from, Philip.
I'm coming from Kakamega County.
Oh, you're in Kakamega County. And how old are you?
I'm 17.
Good, 17 years old. Now, in the event that you found yourself in an unfamiliar territory, Philip, what would be your first line of action?
The first line, I'll go to the nearest police station.
Okay. And are you aware of a helpline for missing children especially?
Yes. 116, you can call or send an SMS.
Or send an SMS, fine. So in the event that you can get to the police, you can call that line. Are you aware of any cases where children have gone missing within your locality?
Yeah. I'll use my younger brother's experience.
Okay, fine. Share.
His best friend.
What happened?
I'm not getting you.
What happened to your brother? You said you can use your brother's experience. Maybe you can share with us,
Yes.
Philip, what happened to your brother?
His best friend got lost, and after a whole year is when he was discovered to be in Tanzania.
Say that, did you say that the best friend to your brother went missing and he was located in Tanzania?
Yes.
Is he hale? Is he well? Is he back home with his family as we speak?
Yes.
Okay. And did your brother get to know who took his best friend to Tanzania?
No.
Why did they take? Where did they take your brother's best friend? Where in Tanzania to do what? Huh?
Tanga.
To Tanga in Tanzania.
Yes.
Tanga in Tanzania. How far back was this? When was this?
It was in 2017.
2017. 2017. That is 4 years back. Thank you very much. And for you, from this experience, and I'd want to believe that, is your brother your younger brother or your elder brother?
Pardon?
Is your brother older or younger than you?
Younger.
Younger than you. So from that experience with your brother, being the eldest brother, what have you done to ensure that your brother is more safe and more secure, given the knowledge that he has a friend who actually got lost?
Like, for instance, these days we tell him that whenever he informs us, and she should play with.
Okay. Thank you very much, Philip Musambi there from Kakamega, sharing that experience through his younger brother whose friend got lost and was traced back to Tanga in Tanzania. Now we go to Vanessa. Vanessa Yego.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you, Vanessa?
I'm good.
Great to see you. Remind me, which county?
Nakuru County.
Nakuru is very well represented this morning. Vanessa, if you found yourself lost or in a place, it's not familiar for you, what would you do?
I would like to get in touch with my parents, and if both of them are not in a position to pick up, I will call any of my sisters, and yes.
Okay, fine. I'd want to know, do you own a cell phone? Do you have a cell phone for use, Vanessa?
Yes.
Okay. Do you always use it? I'm sure when you're in school you do not have that particular cell phone, but is it dedicated to you, or do you share it among yourselves as siblings?
No, it is mine alone.
Pardon?
It is mine.
Oh, it is yours. Good. Remind us, how old are you, Vanessa?
11.
You're 11 years old, Nakuru County. Would you happen to know someone or a child who went missing at some point? Maybe a neighbor, a fellow student or pupil,
No.
Okay. So you would call. Who is a stranger to you? Who do you consider a stranger, Vanessa, to you?
A person I've never met or seen.
Have you had a conversation with a stranger in the recent past, Vanessa?
Yes.
Where was it?
In a supermarket.
In a supermarket. This person were they male or female?
Male.
Male. What did they want?
They said that they have been sent by my parents to come and get me.
In a supermarket, they claimed that they were sent by your parents to come get you. How did you know that they were not sent by your parents?
I know my parents cannot send someone, since they've also taught me of such.
So you knew that your parents trusted that you could go to the supermarket and come back? Yeah. And that they had warned you about such tactics. How far long was this, Vanessa? When did this happen?
A year ago.
A year ago. Have you had any other incidences?
No.
Good. That is good. That is good. That is good. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Keep it up. Be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Now we go to Baraka. Baraka Machuki, good morning. Baraka Machuki, unmute your mic, Baraka. Baraka Machuki, kindly unmute your mic. Thank you very much. Now we can speak. Good morning, Baraka. How are you? Great. We can
I'm
see.
fine.
Great, great, great. We are also fine. Tell us, how old are you, Baraka, and where are you right now?
I'm from Nakuru County and I'm 11 years, turning 12 the next week.
Oh yes, I remember. Next week when we're having the budget being read. Which date in particular, Baraka? Which date?
15th.
You have to look at the
15th.
calendar to remember your birthday, Baraka. Really? You had to check the calendar. I thought unajua birthday ni alini. Aya, sawa. June 15th it is, turning 12. All the best for your birthday. Now, do you know your parents' contact lines offhand?
Yes.
Good. In the event that you found yourself lost somewhere, what would you do first?
I'll go to the police station.
You'd go to the police station. And nakama iko mbali, if it is far from where you are and you do not know exactly where you are, you know, you can be in a place where you don't know even where the police station is. What would you do?
I'll call my parents.
You will call your parents. Do you have a cell phone, Baraka? Do you have a cell phone? Huh?
Yes.
Good. You use it all the time when you're home, right?
Not all the time.
Okay, sawa. Thank you very much. Do you know of a helpline that you can call in the event that maybe your parents' lines are not going through?
Pardon?
Do you know of another line that you can call other than your parents or relatives to just seek help if you find yourself lost?
No.
Okay. Sawa. Do you know of any child who has gone missing of late, or have you had an experience?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, too. You know of such a case? Tell us what happened.
It was me.
You got lost. Baraka, what happened? Tell us.
I was threatened and I was forced to go.
Wow, sorry for that. What happened? When was that? When did that happen?
Last year.
Last year. Where did it happen? Did it happen in school, in a supermarket? What happened? Tell us. Tell me what happened.
I was sent to the shop. Then a person came to me and told me that my parents have said that I go with them. They will meet me there.
These people, how many were they? How many? Was it one person, two people?
One person.
It was one person. Male or female?
Male. They were trying to steal my bike.
Oh, so you were cycling. How did you get out of that situation, Baraka? What happened?
I went to the nearest shop. Then I gave the shop owner my parents' number. Then they called my mom. Then they came to pick me up.
I'm so sorry that happened to you, Baraka, but I'm so happy that you are here and you're here with us, giving us that information. keep it up. Continue keeping your contacts in line, and also don't deal with strangers anymore. That was good thinking for you there. We're glad that you're safe. Have a good day, Baraka. Veronica Nyongesa.
What about the tablets?
Baraka, what you were saying before we got disconnected? Baraka, you were saying?
You said you'll follow up on my present.
Yes, we said we will follow up on your gift, and you said you'd want a tab. We are yet to talk to your parents because that is something that we need to discuss, or rather your parents have to have that conversation. I remember. So my producers here are saying they are ready, especially the one called Ben, and they are going to work onto that issue to just follow up with your parents and find out if indeed you can get that particular gift. Thank you very much for sharing your ordeal, and I'm glad that you're happy and healed, and that you're giving us feedback about that incident that you had last year. I'm just wondering, has this issue happened to you once again? Has anyone approached you with that kind of story again?
Oh,
okay.
I learned when I was kidnapped.
Pardon? I didn't, kindly repeat that. I didn't hear what you said. I didn't quite get you there. Let's cross over. Thank you very much, Baraka, who is turning 12 in June 15th and is waiting for a tab there. Crossing over to now, as you've heard, that's quite a lot of information, and I think we need to start off from the most recent one that you've had. This is an experience that an 11-year-old has gone through. They were approached by someone, and it's also Vanessa also went through it the same from Nakuru, saying that someone claimed that they had been sent by their parents to come collect them. Then, just borrowing up from the report, says that some of what is happening is that 40% of children who are recruited or rather taken away had the involvement of a member, family member or relative, and also strangers. Now we're dealing with strangers. What do we do? I mean, how do we empower our children?
I think from what we are seeing, I would start by commending those children, because you can see that they sat and thought, and they are wary of strangers, because you can see them saying, no, let me call my mom, or let me verify with my mother if this is something that is true. So even when you're seeing the last, as he says, he was forced to go. He wasn't voluntary. So I think from the very first thing we have to do is to first of all empower our children. As parents, we have to empower our children to know that, because we are not always there to watch them 24/7. Sometimes they're in school, they're working from school, they're going out to play with their friends. So it's to first of all teach children to be wary of strangers, and it's also being able to have that conversation as a parent with your child. Do they talk to you? Do they tell you of the incident that happened to them? Because the first thing, we know children by their very nature, they are very trusting. You tell a child this and they will believe you, because they don't really have a reason not to. So unless as parents we sit and guardians and have this conversation with children and tell them, you know what, I don't expect, or maybe I wouldn't. And I think there's one who said she knows for sure her parents wouldn't send somebody.
Yes, that was Ruth.
Yes.
And she was confident yes, my parents would not send someone.
Yes.
I think this also has to do with the issue of parenting point of view, and even from the feedback Frasha here, we're seeing each child is saying, I know my parents would not send me. There's Ariana from Mombasa who says they do coding with the mom.
Yes.
That when I send someone to you, if they do not say what I told you in the morning, then just know that is not for me. So we need to communicate.
Communication is key. It is very key. And I think for me, I commend that parent. The fact that she has sat and thought and told her girl, you see, unless someone gives you this code, then it is not me sending you. So that entire idea of protecting your children, it starts from at home. And they're also able, you know, we also say children are also, they're not just receivers of rights, they also should know their right, so that they're able to assert themselves and say, no, I will not do this. But unless they know, unless they know what to expect, because some of them may not even know what trafficking is. You tell them, someone says, let's go home, they will go. So it's up to the parent to have that conversation with children. Parents cannot be strangers to their children. We have to have that one-on-one conversation. They need to know what you can and cannot do. They need to know how to reach you. Do they trust that if they pick up their phone and call you, that you'll be able to answer? So 116, I know, is the child helpline or hotline number in Kenya. And I think we have, across the African region, we almost every country now has in place a hotline number. But not every child actually knows this, although we try as much as possible to advocate and raise awareness around it. But our question is, as a parent, does your child know you? Even as you're asking the very basic question, what is your name? Where are you coming from? What's your mother's name? What's your father's name? What's their phone number? Because even today, for us, if we do a rescue, it takes a lot of time for us to try and track a child. Because there are those who will tell you, mama ni mama and baba ni baba. Maybe or they don't know their name. Mama. Yes. So the very basic things that we can teach our children, like just making sure that they know your name or their name, where they come from, who to contact, where to go, who they can trust. So for me, those are the very basic. And the 116, which is a child hotline number, I think it's open 24/7, and it's any child can call. Yes.
Thank you very much. We're getting a lot of feedback on our social media platforms, and there's someone who is tweeting and at Selector Arafat, and has quoted one of the children there, is that I would call my sisters or my mom first in the case of any encounter. That is actually quoting from Vanessa, who is live on Zoom, via Zoom. From Nakuru. You've said that now the onus falls onto the parents to ensure that their children are safe.
Yes.
But also now let's look at, for me as a parent, today I have sent my daughter out and she's not come back. I have gone back to the supermarket or the shop that I sent her. No one, she was there, but she's not there.
Yes.
What do? We know that a missing persons report should be filed after 48 hours. Does this same law apply for missing children?
I don't think so. Looking at it from a practical perspective, I do not think you're going to go home, sit down and say, I'm going to wait for 48 hours for me to go report. Because especially for these missing children, especially in terms of cases of trafficking, this is mobile. Sometimes these children are being moved from one region to another. So you need to raise awareness about such a child. I got this child from such and such a place, or I sent my child to such a place, and my child, or they have not come back. So you cannot wait for 48 hours, because by 48 hours, that child may have crossed a border. So you have to act very fast as a parent. You have to be able to reach out. You need to know who to reach out to. It may be the police, it may be the children's department, it may be your local authority, especially in the urban center. I know, like in the rural center, it's very easy for us to track. You can easily track because every villager tends to know everyone. But that's not the same, it's not the case within the urban centers. So you need to be able to, and I will not say wait for 48 hours. The sooner you act, especially if your child's life depends on it, the sooner you act, the safer they are. Yes.
Act first.
Yes.
Leave the law aside. Now, that is, before we also just expound on how to act, let's hear from still another child, that is Veronica. Good morning, Veronica. How are you? Veronica Nyongesa. Good morning once again.
Yes, I'm fine.
Good. Focus on us. There is someone who is distracting your feed, Veronica. There, kindly have it on, on landscape there or portrait, but have it not move. So, Veronica, kindly stop looking at the television. Focus on your gadget so that we can see you better and properly right here in the studio. How are you once again, Veronica?
I'm fine.
We're talking about child trafficking, and if you're in a situation where you got lost, the issue, what would you do? What would you do if you got lost, Veronica?
I I will call the number 116.
Don't touch don't touch the camera because we can see on screen. Yes, kindly. Veronica there, he's just said that they would call the helpline 116.
Yes.
And would want to know if this is a toll-free helpline, toll-free 116 to report either, a missing child, and also the children can call when they're seeking help, and there's a response unit towards. Now, Vanessa, you said you'd call 116. Veronica, if in the event that you did not have, a place or rather a gadget to use to call this helpline, what would be your next line of action, Veronica?
I will call my parents.
And if you do not have a phone to call, what would you do next? If you are not in a position to make that call, what would you do next?
I would have gone to the nearest shop and tell him or her the number of my parents, and I will call them.
The person who is distracting you while you're giving us our feedback, kindly let Veronica talk to us directly, and kindly don't touch the screen there. So Veronica, I'd want to know, do you know of a missing child within your locality, your neighbor, people in your school, or someone you know? Have you heard of such a case?
No.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, Veronica, for coming on board there. She's saying there that she would call the helpline and also call her parents.
Yes.
Let's go back to the conversation about how parents should react in the event that their children, or guardians for that matter, react if the unfortunate happens, because no one wants to lose a child.
Yes.
That you need to act fast.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's the issue of, you've said it depends on where I am.
Yes.
Is it safe? Is it advisable for me to put the information on social media?
No, there's always the issue of child safeguarding, which is where we say it's a do no harm policy. Whatever you do should not put your child in further danger. So my take, or what we usually advise is, one, try and get the authorities involved. We have organizations, we have like missing child in Kenya that help you track your children. So putting on social media, while it may help in the sense of trying to create awareness, they do this, but they also have to tag. It's not just who are you calling. Because as much as you're putting a social media post, you need to tag and in where do they respond, who do they respond to. You need to have all these details of where was your last child in the description, and you need to have a lot of people trying to reach out for these children. So the most advisable also is get the authorities involved, the police involved, because it's a crime. Trafficking itself is a crime. So as much as we are trying to say, today it's the era of social media, because it has two-pronged approach. You can put it in social media and the worst happens, or you can put it in social media and someone tracks it. But when you have a lot of people, even the police monitoring, like today we have the Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit. What they do is, their entire role is to track cases of child trafficking, but they also have a digital presence, media. So they're able to track, if I post something today, something on sexual abuse or sexual exploitation of children, they're able to track my IP address. So as much as, even when we are putting this out there, any response that they get, they're able to track the same. So it's not just, you're not alone in the journey, and I think you need to also involve the media, the police in this case, yes.
So it's about your gut feeling as a parent or the person in that situation. It can either work for you, social media can either work or not work. But then there's the issue of justice. You're an advocate of the High Court.
Yes.
Justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes.
The report clearly indicates that perpetrators, impunity has enabled perpetrators to go scot-free, while the children who've gone missing, there's a lot of stigma, and also it has been criminalized. Mm-hmm. What's your take from your end as you come to a close?
One of the challenges we have when it comes to trafficking is actually the prosecution aspect of it. One of the things is, for the longest time, cases of trafficking are either, when the police are writing their charge sheets, they will say child stealing, being found in Kenya illegally. So it's not, the awareness around trafficking hadn't been that high. So part of the problem is also within the police sector, because you're charged with court with the offense that you committed. But when they don't know such a crime exists, the crime of child trafficking exists, then you're charged with something else instead of child trafficking. But it's also, it's easier to, when they on their end, sometimes happens to be, it's easier to prove that you're in Kenya illegally. But this now re-victimizes the victim. Because can you imagine if you've been abducted from wherever, Kenya, or maybe from Uganda, and you've been brought in Kenya. So you're being found in Kenya, but you don't have the documentation to prove how you entered into Kenya. Or someone has just stolen a child, and then they'll be given a very few years. The penalty when it comes to child trafficking will be around 30 years or 30 million. I think for the first time last year, we had the first case where it was successfully prosecuted. And I think this is where now even the anti-human trafficking comes in, because they're in a position, because it's a very, it takes more actually to prove the elements of proving the crime of trafficking, because I have to prove that either I abducted you, I transported you, I moved you from either one place to another, or either the element itself of child labor, which doesn't have much of movement, and I have to prove the element of exploitation. So it takes longer to prove the case of trafficking than it is to prove that you're in a country illegally. But now when we do not prosecute it under trafficking, we end up re-victimizing the victim, because I'm here. It wasn't my will to come to the country. I was brought here against my will. I am being, or someone is using me for sexual exploitation or child labor. I am not either. Most of the time we find them, they don't even get the proceeds from the crimes that they're being committed or the exploitation itself. And then the police come and charge me with being in a country illegally. So on top of already being a victim, you have gone ahead and re-victimized me again. So I guess that part of the challenge in terms of prosecution, but I think we have worked a lot around this as civil societies, because even as you're going for prosecution, it comes a lot with it. This is someone who has the mental, the anguish itself of having gone through this process. They need psychosocial support. They need also sometimes, they are victims, there is already the guilt of feeling I should have known better, or it was my fault, which is something we find victims of sexual exploitation or even trafficking, they live with. So the entire conversation, it's something that we really need to assist these victims, even reintegration into societies. You don't just wake up today and send them back to their parents. You also need to teach these parents, or where they came from, how do I cope with these children? How do I care for this child? How do I help this child transition? And also we need to look at the root causes, because what happened, or what was the reason behind trafficking? Because you find a lot of these victims are from very poor backgrounds, because, and as you rightly noted, that for most of them, they know their perpetrator. Because I go to the village, they'll go to the village and tell them, I have a job for you, or I'm going to take your child to school. But in reality, the parent doesn't know that this child will end up begging in the streets, maybe of Nairobi, or they will be used for domestic labor. But because they receive maybe some small money, and then they are okay with it. So for us, there is a lot that goes into the entire aspect of child trafficking. And also in terms of prosecution, the police have always been saying, let us know this, let us know that these cases are happening. And for us, it is very good to know that there is an entire police unit dedicated to the crime of fighting the vice of counter-trafficking. Yes.
Very well said. Our guest this morning has been the project manager of Eastern Africa Child Rights Network, that is Frashe Kago, who is also an advocate at the High Court, saying that we need to do something, especially when it comes to justice system, as well as when looking at the prosecution. And also the police need to be aware that child trafficking is on the rise, or rather more cases are being reported, meaning that there is more awareness, but we have a long way to go there. Challenge to parents and guardians this morning is that you need to have that open conversation with your child at home. Tell them, you know, the do's and don'ts.